Hi, and welcome to this Safe Medicate video tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll take a look at how to book a Healthcare Numeracy Assessment for your learners. Hovering your mouse over the Assessment Manager menu opens a sub-menu. Select the first option, Book Assessment. So the first option to choose from is which type of assessment we want to schedule. So for example, I'm going to choose Healthcare Numeracy Assessment. Next, set the date on which you want the assessment to run using the calendar tool. Choose a start time by setting the sliders. These work using a 24-hour clock format. I'm going to choose 9 o'clock, and this defines the time when the assessment becomes available. Next, use the slider to set the assessment duration. This is the time period in which your learners must complete the assessment once they have started. I'm going to set mine to 2 hours. Assessment availability defines the time that the assessment remains active for once it has become available. For example, if you set this to 8 hours, it means that your students may begin the assessment anytime between 9 hours to 8 hours later. Irrespective of when the learner starts within this period, they will be limited to the time you set for the duration to actually complete the assessment. Think of the availability as a window of opportunity to start the assessment. Once the availability period has passed, the assessment becomes closed to anyone who has not yet started. Next, choose whether you want the assessment booking to repeat. The default option is never. You can, however, choose to repeat the assessment daily for a set period of days or weekly for a set period of weeks. Setting an assessment to repeat in this way will replicate the booking daily or weekly. This can be useful, for example, if you are setting a series of formative assessments for a student group. Remember, it is only the assessment booking that is replicated. The questions that the students get will be randomly drawn from our extensive database of healthcare numeracy problems. Each assessment will therefore have a different question set. Our last option for the assessment schedule is to choose whether it is visible to the students. If this is checked, students receive notifications of the upcoming assessment date and time when they are logged into their portal. If you want to book assessments in advance and only alert students a little closer to the assessment date, you can leave this unchecked at this stage and choose to make it visible later. Next, we move on to the user details. This is where you select the learner group that will do the assessment. Start by choosing the cohort start year. Next, choose the student cohort. If you have only one intake per year, then this will be cohort A. If you have 2 cohorts a year, then the second cohort will usually be coded as B. Last, choose the student group. Once you have selected the start year and cohort, then this list box will show only those groups that are associated with the year and cohort combination. You can select a single group if you want this assessment to be available to only a specific group of students. If it's to be available to all students in that year and cohort, then choose all groups. Okay, so now we move on to the option for the assessment itself. Start by giving it a title. This is just a name to help you identify it more easily. This will help differentiate, for example, 2 assessments scheduled for the same day. Next, choose whether this should be a point of entry or point of registration assessment. For reference, a point of entry assessment will comprise problems that are not set within the context of healthcare, though test the numeracy skill domains that are required to work within a healthcare setting. A point of registration assessment will comprise problems that are set within the context of healthcare and are typical of the sort of numeracy problems that your learners will encounter in practice. Now, choose the skill domains that you wish to assess. Note that we have identified 20 core areas of healthcare numeracy that underpin and inform the safe practice of nursing proficiencies and the clinical nursing procedures and international equivalents. All 20 skill domains are checked automatically, but you have the ability to uncheck any domains you wish not to assess. Next, choose whether you want an on-screen calculator to be available to your students during the assessment. If you select this option and the students use the calculator, Safe Medicate will record the values and operations of the students' input. This can be really helpful in identifying students that make mistakes as a result of inappropriate calculator use. Now choose whether the assessment is formative or summative. Select formative if you want users to receive immediate online feedback on their performance as soon as they complete the assessment. Select summative if you want to withhold the assessment results and feedback until a later date, for example, following an examination board. By default, if you select formative, then the feedback available option is checked, and if you select summative, by default the feedback available option is unchecked. If you choose not to release the feedback immediately, which is most common with a summative assessment, this can be changed at a later date when you are ready to release the results. Next, choose whether learners should have multiple attempts of the assessment. This option only becomes available when you have set the assessment as formative. By default, the option is unchecked. If you want to allow multiple attempts, then check the box and enter a value for the number of attempts. Last of all, choose a password for the assessment. Typically, this password will be told to the chosen group prior to them commencing the assessment, and ensure access to the assessment is limited to that particular group. When all done, click Submit to save your assessment booking. You will receive a confirmation message that the assessment has been added to the system. Thank you for taking the time to watch this tutorial, and we hope you found it helpful. Please check out our other video tutorials in this series that will step you through the key functions and features of Safe Medicate.